because that model is a failure. Because you have few people who are exhausted. Exhausted to do what? To move ahead? No, just to keep things going. They are exhausted just to keep things going, to manage the status quo. That's why you don't see in the community a lot of growth or development or planning. Why? Because, as I said, you have a small number of people, limited resources. Most of communities are relying on the contribution of few people. Limited number of resources or limited number of people who are giving their money, limited number of people who are giving their time, and large congregation. So it's the only result that you expect from this is stagnation. Because that model, this is not the model of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There is no spoon feeding in the model of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The model of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, everybody is responsible and everybody is on a mission. And the group just support individuals, not the opposite. And that's why that model of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was very scalable. It has no limit. Because if you apply the spoon feeding model, now if we are the people who are active, we can accommodate 10 more, 20, 30, 100 maybe, but that's it. You can't accommodate more than that. And then you reach a ceiling and you cannot move any further. So, Muslim on a mission. And I don't know whether we all realize the difference between what does it mean to be on a mission. Have you seen someone who is on a mission? I used a couple of weeks ago the example of missionary. Yeah, the missionary. The missionaries, these are people who are on a mission. We should be looking more like a missionary more than like average Christian. But unfortunately, majority of Muslims, they nowadays looking more like average Christian than a missionary. For them, faith is on the side. Someone who's on a mission, someone who's restless, always preoccupied. There is something that is preoccupying his or her mind all the time. Thinking about what can I do to push this cause further, or to bring more people on board, or that question of what is it that I can do is always in their mind. And as I said, they are restless. Even when they go to sleep, they're thinking all the time. That's what it means to be on a mission. We don't have that. Among Muslims, we don't have people who are on a mission. I mean, when I say we don't, it's extremely small percentage of Muslims who are on a mission. That's the main engine of motivation for Muslims, yes.
The missionary, mostly wealthy people. The people I know, American people, they are in missionary. They go always South America or in the Middle East. They are wealthy people. No. They have the money.
No.
Or the churches support them with the money.
No.
Our wealthy people, they don't spend their money on these issues, you know.
No. A lot of them, they're not. Some people, they take off school.
But how they have the resources to travel overseas?
Go and ask somebody. Sometimes, it happened to me a couple times. I found out that people who are working, like in Home Depot, etc., and I was in conversation with some of them, they say they are working to save some money to go on a mission.
And you also have to remember that with missionaries, it's not always correlated to religious proselytizing people. So it could be like Habitat for Humanity, for example, that goes out there to fix out houses. It's not really related to trying to push Christianity, but it's organized by a Christian organization that sponsors these people, right?
Very good. And that's going to lead me to the second. So this is the biggest engine of motivation for a Muslim. That engine is off. Now, it's that the Islam, the mission of Islam, it's a big motivator. So that's not working. And when it is working nowadays, it pushes in the wrong direction. We have Muslims who are very motivated religiously, but they end up destroying buildings and killing people. That's the wrong motivation. So engine is not working, or it is working in reverse or in the wrong way. Second is the compassion. He said that compassion, it's a big motivator, and brother just confirmed, Michael just confirmed it, that some people, they go out to do these things out of compassion. They are very compassionate people. So compassion is a big motivator. There are many people who go out and help. Nowadays, like these are, you heard about Physicians Without Borders, a lot of organizations. You talked about Habitat for Humanity, etc. Not every one of them is motivated by religion. Actually, many of these, some of them are even secular. But people are very compassionate. What will make a physician who is well-to-do somewhere leave, take a few months out of their business or of their work and go to war zones and help people or famine or etc. There is nothing other than compassion. It's pure compassion that is driving these people. So compassion is extremely big motivator. I don't want to say Muslims are not compassionate, but actually, we are not very well known by compassion. I mean, when you mention compassion, the first thing that comes to your mind is not Muslims, somebody else. And when you mention Muslim, first thing that will come to your mind is not compassion. So we are not really very known for compassion. You can see it. There is so much good work is done in this country. You don't see Muslims there a lot of time. But rarely you see Muslim in a shelter or helping those. So it's not really there. It's weak, let's say. And also it's twisted. Why? Because we were told that we need to be compassionate only towards Muslims, which I don't know where people come up with that. So even when it is there, it's limited only to Muslims, that you help Muslims. Why? Because we were given this picture of dividing the world into Muslims and non-Muslims, and because these are non-Muslims, means they are kafir. These people have very little to do with them or don't feel anything for them. That's why a lot of time for many Muslims, let's not say majority, when you hear news of earthquake, etc., if it is not happening in a Muslim land, maybe many people don't feel a lot about it. And nowadays, even if it is happening in a Muslim country, many Muslims really became indifferent. So nowadays, because we get so much bad news, that people became, in a way, desensitized, meaning they are not sensitive anymore to these things. So that's bad. So we have that issue of compassion. Engine is not working properly, very weak, and also very limited. The third, and I'm going to get to the fourth, which we covered in Jumu'ah. The third engine of motivation and part of that profile of Muslim that we should be working to build ourselves into it, that profile, and raise generation with that profile. The third is what? The third is patriotism. Big motivator. They say what? They say only for God and country people are willing to die. Only for God and country people are willing to die. And we have seen it. We have seen it where people will be willing to even put their lives on the line, either for God or for country. And they do it very happily, and the whole population will praise them for that, because they died defending their country. So patriotism is not even big motivator. It's something that, one of the things that will really empower you, inspire you, and make you ready to put any sacrifices. Patriotism. Loving your own country. That engine among Muslims nowadays is very weak. Among Muslim Americans is not existent. Muslim Americans have very big issue of identity. They don't know where they belong. So that's a big problem. But even Muslims in their original country, and I explained this one time, the reasons for this. Even Muslims in their original country nowadays, their sense of patriotism is very weak. And what's the reason? Because they lived under oppression and corruption for a long time. It weakened their sense of belonging. They start feeling that this country belongs to these people. It doesn't belong to me. I don't belong there. This country, and you see it, you hear it all the time. People saying it's their country. Their country meaning it belongs to the ruling party or the ruling family or the ruling etc. And it's not mine. So even in their original countries, Muslims, the sense of patriotism became very weak because of corruption and oppression for a long time. And when you are in a country where you don't get your rights, when you are humiliated, when you don't get equal opportunity, it's very hard to have a sense of belonging. Let's face it, I mean, this is natural, human. So it is weak among Muslims in their original countries, and it is non-existent among Muslim Americans. Also, it's very weak for different reasons. Here, because of the confusion that people are having hard time to become comfortable, they are Muslim Americans. Everybody has their own excuse. People say this society is non-Muslim, so you cannot be loyal, you cannot be a faithful citizen because it's a non-Muslim society. Somebody else will mention political reasons. Some African American brothers and sisters will mention history. Everybody will have something to mention as an excuse not to have that sense of patriotism. So third engine is not working. You know, have an airplane that has 4 engines, now 3 of them are not working. Fourth, and that's the one that I discussed in Jummah, it's ambition. Dreams. People having dreams that will motivate them day in, day out to achieve it. Ambition, high aspirations. What keeps someone working day in, day out is a dream. So even if someone has no mission in life, no weak patriotism, no compassion, the fourth is driving many people who have none of the first 3 engines, but they have this one. They are very ambitious. And that ambition is the one that keeps them always moving and always working hard day in, day out until they achieve. And that's the subject that we discussed this Jummah. And I used the example of Olympics. I said we're going to learn this Jummah, I start the Jummah by saying we're going to learn some Islamic lessons from the Olympics. So before people get shocked, I told them just wait, be patient, because you're gonna like what you're gonna listen. You're gonna hear. So we're gonna learn some Islamic lessons from the Olympics. And then I mentioned what? I mentioned number 1. I said it's very painful when it comes to Olympic sports and that the performance of all Muslim countries, the Muslim world, can be compared only to one country, and nowadays to one person.
One player.
One athlete. The whole 1.5 billion Muslims, their performance can be compared and even worse than one individual. That's something that is, I mean, if this does not shake us, then what? Because we're used to these things. I mean, we have been watching the World Cup, and Muslim countries, they go there just for fun, for participation. Fine, we accepted that. Even though I don't know why we should accept it yet. Why we should accept these things as a given yet. And then I mentioned that this is not only in sports. We may say we are a nation that is very serious. We don't have time for the sports. Okay, let's check. Let's check politics. Let's check economy. Maybe we'll find something. And you know the ranking. The ranking is horrible. When they rank countries for transparencies, for innovation, for the good stuff. Usually Muslim countries are concentrated at the bottom. And then when they rank country for corruption, you go top. We're going to find most Muslim countries. We're saying this, it's not like we say it to depress anybody or to say that's our destiny. It's the opposite, actually. And when I confront this reality, I become more motivated. Unlike anybody else who say, oh, this becomes depressing. No, it's not depressing. It's a reality. You have to face it, accept it. That tells me how much work is needed. And I will never accept that this is our destiny. No matter how long this will stay, no matter how bad the situation is going to be, I'm not going to accept that this is the destiny of Muslims, is to be below average or to be the rock bottom or maybe the maximum they can achieve is to be average. I'm not going to accept this. Why? Because I'm reading the Quran and I see where Muslims should be and can be. That's Allah who created us, is telling us that's where you belong. So my eyes are on where we should be, not where we are. I have to accept where we are so that I just know how much work is needed, so that I don't fool myself and say this is minor, with little, inshallah, with time, things will work. No, it's not going to work out. If you're going to keep doing the same thing, the same way, you're going to get the same results. So that's how bad the situation is. Very bad, very... Now, go back to Olympics. Why this performance? Is it money? No.
Dream.
It's not money, because there are some Muslim countries who have more money than the countries that these athletes, winners, they represent. And because most Muslim teams from Muslim countries, they spend on them equal amount of money like anybody else. So it's not an issue of money whatsoever. Out. It's not an issue of money. So it's an issue of food. And what is special about this kid from Singapore, who 8 years ago or 10 years ago his dream was to take a picture with Michael Phelps, the American swimmer who got I don't know how many gold medals. And this time was able to compete with him, and he managed to defeat him. What's special? What is it that this kid has that a Muslim kid doesn't? It's just that ambition and that determination, that they had this dream, one day I'm going to race with this person and I'm going to beat him. And that's something that kept him going day in, day out for, 10 years, 12 years, and he managed to achieve it. This time he was not taking picture with him. This time he was on the podium, getting the gold medal, and the other guy is getting the silver. What is it that this kid had that a kid from Muslim country doesn't? Nothing. It is just that ambition, having a dream in life. And I told you that somebody was studying Muslim societies for a long time and wrote a book about it. And in the middle of that book said what? Said the thing that shocked me in these societies is that people live without a dream. People live without a dream. They don't have any dream in life. They are just happy where they are. So not only things are stagnant, but people are complacent. Means there is no guilt feeling, there is no motivation, there is no dream. Said what shocked me in these societies is that people live without a dream. How did we manage to make a faith that is so inspiring, so empowering, make it turned into a faith that is very limiting and very crippling? I don't know how do we manage to do this. How did we manage to turn a deen where one verse or one hadith is enough to motivate someone? And we have seen that the early companions were so much motivated with just few verses were revealed. So it's not even the whole book. This is a deen that has some verses or some hadith are enough to turn your life, transform your life completely. Very inspiring, very empowering, raises the bar so high. Put the standard very high. And that's why you can understand the level of motivation that the companions had when they understood Islam properly. When they get the true version, not the one we had. True version of Islam, how much motivated these people were. They didn't know any limits. Self-confidence, aspirations, very high, determination, you name it. That the companion has summarized when he stood before a king and said, God sent us to save humanity and to guide and lead people. And he didn't say it out of arrogance. He said basically from injustice to justice. Basically we are striving so that justice prevail on earth. That's the power that this deen has instilled in the companions. And if that tells me something, it confirms to me that what we have is not fixable. Let's not try to fix it. Let's just to put it aside and go look for the true thing. Look for the true Islam. Islam that will make your life pleasant, make you so motivated, and make you a difference maker. Someone who does not settle for anything. Always looking for next level, and always next challenge. So, one. Second, the issue of dream, again, is not there. And if the dream is not there, then what makes people motivated? What makes people motivated? I mentioned the example. I said, you know, when these Olympic winners, most of them, when they get the medal, they cry, or when they win the race, they cry. Why? This is, by the way, psychologically, that's an indication of someone who has been living for years with that dream. So when it came true, usually people explode in emotions. So most of them, you see them when they win, they are in tears.
Because they visualize themselves in this position.
Beautiful. They visualize themselves in that position for so many years. Day in, day out is what's in their mind is that moment. And when they say dream came true, that's exactly that moment. It's a dream came true. It's something. And then I heard from these people, I don't know if you had the chance, please go and read or listen to what they're saying. Listen to their stories. Some people took a year off school. One of them was saying we are all day in the gym. Living almost in the gym. Now I'm not saying we need to live in the gym, but I'm saying that that's the level of determination. That's a level of commitment and dedication for that dream, that it's something they visualize. It's something that is printed in their mind as a mental picture, and that's always in their sight, and that's what keeps them motivated. That's why the moment they achieve it, you see that reaction, that very emotional reaction, because that's something that have been visualizing themselves, and again, the dream came true. So I mentioned that ambition, dedication, commitment, discipline, all of these became in very short supply among Muslims. And I'm saying this, by the way, it's not like to say this is it, we can't do anything about it. No, we can always do something. And alhamdulillah, some people are responding to this message. Some people are responding to this message. They start realizing they can invest in themselves and they can invest in their children. And that's what the point is this. The point is not just to say these things and feel sad or accept it as a reality. Is how much we can do. First for ourselves. It's never too late, by the way. I mean, many companions, they went through the transformation in their 40s and their 30s and even after that. So it's never too late. But also investing in our children. Start raising the bar very high. I mean, forget about it's okay as long as my child get good grades, learn some Quran, is not in drugs, so I'm happy. Forget about these bottom line, because that will lead you nowhere. Raise the bar of aspirations, and especially living in America is really leave you no excuse. And we're living in a country where the son of an immigrant who was raised by his mother became president of the country. I mean, this is a place where you have no excuse. You have no excuse because of that opportunity for social mobility in this country. There are so many people who made it in this country, they started from nothing. They started from scratch. So this is not a country where all corruption, etc. and there is no. This is a country that there is a chance for you to be something big and to raise a child who really can make big difference. So the point I want to make is this, is that for our children and even for ourselves and for our community, forget about the first three engines. At least let's stick to this fourth one. let's raise the bar of aspirations much higher, and always try to challenge ourselves, and move from the attitude of making success, from the attitude of justifying failure, into the attitude of making it happen. Because the first one, alhamdulillah, we excelled in it. Now we never run out of excuses. I mean, to the point that we reach a point where people start putting the excuses before they do the task. So from the beginning, they lay down their excuse so that they're telling you, if I fail, you know why. You have a new government coming, rather than giving us their plan or vision, say, you know what, the situation is extremely bad, and it's almost hopeless, and the people before us, they left it in terrible situation. So basically they're telling us, you know what, most probably we're going to fail, but if we're going to fail, it's not our problem. It's because of the situation we found. No, we really have to abandon that attitude and start be harsh on ourselves. Always when things don't work, rather than finding somebody to blame or finding an excuse, because that's what our deen teaches us in a beautiful way. وَمَا أَصَابَكَ مِنْ سَيِّئَةٍ فَمِنْ نَفْسِكَ. If something goes wrong in your life, it's only you have yourself to blame, nobody else. And that's very essential, because when you blame yourself, you can fix things. When you blame somebody else, you relax. When you find excuse or you find somebody to blame, usually say, oh, it's not my problem, I'm just the victim of it. So, but when you blame yourself, you go inside, say, what is it that I did wrong? What is it that I didn't do, that I was supposed to do? And then you will fix it. قُلْ هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِي أَنفُسِكُمْ. Quran, very clear. And this is the prophetic community, and was defeated badly in the battle of Uhud. And then they will start wondering, well, how come we are Muslims and we are defeated? And Quran came to tell them, it's not because you're Muslim, things will work for you. It's if something doesn't work, it's from yourself. قُلْتُمْ أَنَّ هَذَا. Why this happening to us? قُلْ هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِي أَنفُسِكُمْ. And as I said, Quran, in a number of places, uses very harsh language, talking to the community of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? Why? Because they are designated for a big role, to be a model community. So whenever something doesn't work, you will see verses are very harsh. The verses that were revealed after the Battle of Badr in Surah Al-Anfal, when people were disputing the spoils of war. The verse that were revealed after the defeat in Uhud in Surah Al-Imran. It's a very harsh language. Quran called it failure, called it disaster. So there was no smooth words, it's nothing, don't worry. You hear it nowadays all the time. Alhamdulillah, community is doing good, we're growing and things are well. That's not true. Quran came to say, you know what, it was a defeat, it was a failure from your side, and this is a disaster called musibah and fashal. So it wasn't called naksa. Then nobody tried to belittle. It was a musibah, it's a disaster, and it was a failure, and you are responsible. It's because of you. So there is no smooth talk there. It's very, very harsh language. Because why? So that people, they learn their lesson. They learn their lesson. Look at the verses that were revealed after the incident of Al-Ifk, when the Prophet of the wife of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was accused of adultery, Aisha radiallahu anha, and the verses that were revealed in Surah An-Nur, very harsh language. Just read it. Second page, Surah An-Nur. What's Surah An-Nur? Is Surah how many? 24. Surah 24. Surah 24, second page, it's the whole page. It's a very strong language. How you do this, how you perform so poorly. I mean, it's amazing how this Quran was building that community into a model and leading community, and whenever something goes wrong, how the lessons come very harsh. Why? Because they were designated to be something big. So this is not appropriate for you. This is not, you shouldn't. So how it starts in a beautiful way. لولا إذ سمعتموه ظن المؤمنون والمؤمنات بأنفسهم خيرا. When you heard this rumor, the first thing you should have said, we are better than this. This cannot happen in our ranks. That should be your first reaction, not just hearsay. Say لولا إذ سمعتموه ظن المؤمنون والمؤمنات بأنفسهم خيرا. Say no, this can't happen among ourselves. So dreams, determination, ambition, dedication, commitment, discipline, these words nowadays, they are in a very, very short supply. All of these were replaced by what? They were replaced by convenience and complacency, comfort zone, and excuses to justify anything. Anything that goes wrong. The bottom line, a lot of time when you hear a Muslim talking, you see that almost, sometimes I was about to say it, basically you are telling me nothing can be done, or it's not our fault. Usually, whenever you listen to a Muslim analyzing situation, you read between the lines, it's not our fault, nothing can be done better than that. So basically justifying where we are and staying there. So it's not our fault, that's big among Muslims. They don't focus on what went wrong and how it is fixed. If someone managed to convince you that it is not his fault or her fault, that's it. And I always keep saying, at the end of the day, the problem still, even if it is not your fault, problems still need to be fixed. Still have a problem, we need to deal with it. The issue is not whose fault now. It's beyond that. So it's not like if you prove that it's not your fault, then you're done. No. We still have a problem to solve. The focus is not to be, it's not focus should not be whose fault. The focus is what went wrong, how can we fix it? So that's, unfortunately, is not there. And I mentioned example, real example. I teach in 2 universities. It happened to be, the last semester, it happened to be 2 classes, almost same age, same sizes, same size class, etc. One come in the morning and one in the evening, in the late afternoon. And one time I really had to stop and tell them this. First, the second class, there are some Muslims and people from third world countries. The first class is mostly citizen, American citizen. So I spent 3 hours teaching in the morning. I never had to tell someone, keep quiet, or no side talk, or focus on, never. Never had to do that. Can imagine, it's so quiet, and people are so focused. And they come in the morning, everybody put their assignment, no excuses, nothing. Now switch to the afternoon, and it's completely different. It's all kinds of excuses, all kinds of lack of discipline, all you name it. And unless, if you didn't have some rules that they enforce them strictly, like class becomes a total mess. But you can tell. You can tell the difference. It is, I can see it now. What does it mean to have an advanced nation, and what does it mean to be backward? I can see it very clearly because I lived half of my life in a Muslim country and half of my life here. I can see the contrast very clear. It's progress is clear, and it has requirements. And people don't become backward by coincidence. There are rules. There are rules that govern this universe. Those who understand them and leverage them, they will succeed. Muslims are non-Muslims. Those who mess up with these rules, they will fail. There is no line of books, by the way, that talks about this. And I recommend that if you have a chance to read them. I think the first book that started was by Kennedy, not the president, someone, author called Kennedy, called The Rise and Fall of Nations. The Rise and Fall. And then it opened the door for a long list of books in the same category. I think the most recent one is Why Nations Fail. Why Nations Fail. It tells you that there are things are not working just by coincidence. There are rules. A lot of time we don't establish the connection between the results and the process. One time I was reading a book about the history of United States relationship with Arab world and with Israel. And it was an eye-opener. Why? Because the book explains how things have evolved. And they say that the American, what do you call it, emissary or, no, the one who's sent to be in charge of the communicating or talking to, envoy or something, yeah. So this, one after the other, many, but they go to the Arab countries with very low expectations. And Arab presidents manage to beat those expectations. They come below. So these are people saying it. They go with very low expectation in terms of what they're going to ask for. And the Arabs, they beat those expectations. And what's their demands?
Personalized.
It's against the neighboring Arab country or against opposition inside. That's their demands. So take care of this neighboring country, or help us take care of the opposition. He goes to Israel with a very high expectation. They manage to beat it. Always. Always they manage to beat those expectations. And the demands are technology. We need the latest weapon, the latest weapon and technology. Even the one that still just only United States still have it. We need it. So these are the demands, very high, beyond the highest expectations, and they are for the nation, for the country. And over there and then the same people say that you agree with the Arabs, they never deliver. But whatever you agree with with the other guys, they deliver. With time, the relationship became much more solid here. Became much more solid compared, because who's going to respect you? If you offer your services for free, and you ask for nothing for your country, you ask for things only that are personal. So who's going to respect you? Who is going to respect you? So sometimes we see the outcome, but we don't see how these things have evolved. Bottom line, I started with two questions. Say these two questions, all of us need to work on them to become crystal clear in our mind. What Islam is, what does it mean to be a Muslim? Because nowadays you may hear a completely different definition, and they can tell you some of them about who is the good, the right Muslim. The one who is limited, isolated, disengaged, doesn't interact with anybody. This is very pious. No, he's not. These are not the criteria. I'm sorry. These are not the criteria. This deen, as I said, inspire you and empower you to be a difference maker. So we're talking about someone who's on mission, someone who is very compassionate, someone who is patriot, and someone who is ambitious. These, among others, these are four major criteria has to be that should characterize a true Muslim. Unfortunately, none of these four engines nowadays among Muslims is at work. And when they work in the wrong way, or they contradict each other, so they're not in sync. Nowadays, you don't find, normally, ideally, these four engines should be at work and should be synchronized. How synchronized? They feed into each other. Nowadays, you find, for example, many Muslims, they see a contradiction between being very religious and very patriot, as if they don't go hand in hand. Can't have. Or very religious and still very ambitious in this life. As if to be religious, you have to be someone who is a loser. Why? Because you're focusing on the hereafter, so you don't worry about this. That's not true. So we're starting seeing those artificial incompatibility between things that should be synergetic. They should feed into each other. Actually, these four things, four engines, they should create a synergy. Means each one of them feeds into the other. Someone should be more patriot because is more religious. More compassionate because you are more religious. More ambitious because you are more religious. If you subscribe to the true Islam, it will make you more compassionate and than anybody else maybe, and more patriot and more ambitious. Of course, this profile leads in a different direction than the direction we are going in terms of building ourselves and building our raising future generation. That's on the individual level. We'll talk next time, inshallah, about the profile of the community, so that also we can make the contrast. Always we're doing this so that when you have the profile in your mind, then you know how to work on yourself. What adjustments need to be made and alignments. And you know how to raise your child. We raise our children, the great-grandchildren, with that design in mind. So we inject in them and instill in them very early on the sense of mission, the sense of compassion, the sense of patriotism, and the sense of high aspirations. If you manage to do this early on in your child, you have a candidate for someone who's going to be very successful. Someone who's going to be a difference maker, not an average. If you don't do that, then we have only ourselves to blame. We're going to keep producing more and more average people and complacent people. Yes.
I need to add, we are not happy people. And our happiness, I think, in the wrong direction. Our happiness materialistic right now. How much money I have in my account, how many cars, how many houses. Nobody feel happy because he helped the poor guy, he helped the... I think we need to emphasize on our kids to be happy more. We are always rude. My son, he buy a new car, he will be happy. But if he get good grade, he's not happy. He doesn't care.
You're right. I mean, this deen promises a pleasant life, happy people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises pleasant life for believers who again, the true Islam promises pleasant life and happy life. You're right. And that happiness is not because of what you have. It's something that is an inner phenomenon. That's why it does not depend on your circumstances. Why? Because it comes from the fact of you know what's your role in life, and you're fulfilling it to the best of your ability. That gives you a sense of satisfaction that you don't find it anywhere else, no matter how much money you have. That happiness that comes from a feeling that you know your role and you're doing it to the best of your ability, you will not get it no matter by any materialistic positions. So yes, it's a package. It's the same deed that makes people ambitious, and compassion make them also happy, make them very pleasant. And again, it's a happiness that is very robust. You have a job, you don't have a job, you have money, you don't have money. It's a happiness that comes from within. It's not a happiness that depends on circumstances. Yes. Next. Yes.
With regards to the fourth engine, ambition and having high aspirations, I'm trying to imagine now how one of us could be ambitious with a worthwhile goal to achieve. And I'm just thinking, and how the surrounding society around him, his family, his friends, his close circle, if he's acting alone, they're going to be pulling him down. They're going to basically, he's going to be a joke of having such an out-of-the-world vision or hope for something that none of the ones around him share. I think it's important to surround yourself with people with such aspirations. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting a battle just by yourself.
Great. So excellent. The people around you can really help you or can also hold you back. Unfortunately, among our ranks nowadays, you don't find a lot of people who can really help. People do nothing, and when you try to do something, everybody will come and tell you, forget it, we tried before, etc., it's not going to work, etc. You hear this all the time. I mentioned the brother before. Alhamdulillah, I had the pleasure and the honor to mentor, and he went through big transformation. That's what came to my mind the first time. When I found him really ready for big change, he was in Houston, Texas. And then he got an opportunity to study in Indianapolis. Actually, the opportunity was shaky, and still I encouraged him to do it. I said, look, it's very hard to go through big transformation in the same environment, because people are going to be holding you back, and you're going to spend most of your energy just dealing with them. If you are serious about really going through big transformation, change the environment. Jump on this opportunity. Alhamdulillah, subhanAllah, helped tremendously. Because to become a different person in the same environment, it's not going to be easy. But if we have to do it in the same place, we just have to have more determination, more resolve, and try to push this away immediately from the beginning. And just remember something, that every change in life was met with resistance. And if people are going to make fun of you or me because we start changing or doing things different, they made fun of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, he was mocked, and so that's the nature of things. I mean, people don't want to be, people are in a comfort zone and don't want anybody to pull them out of it. When you start trying to do things different, you put some pressure on them. You put some pressure on them, and they don't want that. So that's why people will resist. If you're going to do it, if you can surround yourself with people who have positive energy, go for it. If you can't, or you have just to deal with the same environment, then you need stronger determination. And announce it, and say, yes, when somebody say, oh, you have changed, yes, I have changed. So let's make it clear from the beginning that none of this is going to push me back. I changed, I'm planning to change. I used to be someone who doesn't read, now I'm reading. I used to be somebody who doesn't exercise, I'm exercising. I used to be somebody who, I went, for example, back to school to get a degree or to get a certificate. Make fun of me, fine. I believe in this, and I'm going to keep doing it. So it can be hard in the beginning. Have stronger determination, and you may have even to distance yourself, to take some distance to go through this journey. But believe me, if you remain persistent, many people will follow. Many people who will resist in the beginning and try to push you, hold you back, will join you. It's just going to take more resolve and more determination.
I think you just answered part of my question, or where I was going with just additional negative things that we've been through, which is more like we try to blame everything in colonialism. And the results of colonialism,
and conspiracy.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like, it seems to me like until like the Ottoman era, and whatever wrong happened in the end of it, I think we were a little bit better off than what happened afterwards. And this is my opinion. Economically, I think the region or the whole area was a little bit different. You saw some investment. But after the colonialism and with the leadership that we had, and we have until now, it's like they spent all of these years, they did their investments in their own, as you just mentioned, like they were investing in themselves or their family, but not investing for everybody. And we kept dreaming about how we're going to get the what we call ترغيف الخبز, the bread for the next day. We didn't have larger dreams, and our families and our parents didn't have any larger dream than thinking about how they're going to put food in that table. And I agree with you, like we need to build a wall between those imaginations and those things that we learned from our parents, and somehow some of us live and try to teach our kids and provide them with what they need to support them to have those bigger goals and to dream about those bigger achievements. But when you compare like the larger Muslims around the world, and you think about what we're still going through, I really think that it's very hard or unfair, and it's really need a little bit more work in there, and maybe some kind of like another way of thinking how somebody's like, you have a leadership fighting somebody who goes just to drain almost, just because he's going to become a Muslim and he might become a fanatic, and this is happening in different countries. If you're running to dream about just how I'm going to feed my kids tomorrow, if that's the only thing that you're going to think about, you're not going to think about how I'm going to put money on the side to send my kids to college the next day. And this is how, and the same thing is going to happen and going to be copied from generations. So what do you think that?
We don't choose our reality. I wish we were born at the time when Muslims or when the situation is much better, etc. So that's how. It's a huge task and responsibility to be the product of, or to be born at a time where things are very bad and going from bad to worse, and you don't accept that and you want to change it. Why? Because you are a product of that culture, and you want to raise generation who thinks differently and do things differently. It's a huge. By the way, what we are trying to do here is the most difficult thing. Why? Because if you accept reality, you become much more comfortable. Why? Because you start taking the painkiller, even though things are going very bad, but you don't feel it. Now, we decided to take that painkiller off and try to face the situation, and to be the one who have to go through that transformation, and then raise generation who, like you put it nicely when you said you build a wall.
Right.
That's it. We're going to turn that page, and we're going to start thinking differently. Going back to the Olympics, you said when people don't have larger dream than food. One of the winners, they said her family was homeless for a while, for quite some time. I'm sure at that time that's their dream, just to have a house. Now they have an Olympic winner, gold medalist. So they were talking about their history or family, said that her family, I think, stayed for quite some time homeless, from shelter to shelter, etc. But people still didn't give up that dream. And they read about you read the biography of many successful people in this country. Their childhood was not very, very happy. Clinton, by the way, President Clinton himself, wasn't very happy childhood. But subhanAllah, these people, they managed to have that dream and they never give it up. In the worst situation, they never give it up. And he has his uncle, I believe, who was mentoring him and always keeping that dream alive. Was dreaming to become president very early on. So you're right. We are in a very bad situation. We are the product of very unhealthy culture. Yet we want to put an end to that. So that's an internal struggle with ourselves. And second, we want to pass on to future generation only lessons learned, no baggage. Now that's what we're trying to do here. We want to try to keep that baggage for this generation. This baggage that tells you it's okay to be average, and it's the ultimate dream for you is just to have a degree and have a job. We want to keep it for ourselves. If we can change it, fine. If we cannot, we want to keep it for ourselves. We want to raise generation whose dreams are much bigger than that, and start investing in them very early. One of the things that impressed me when, A lot of time people ask me to write a letter of recommendation, student. So I ask them to send me your CV, your resume. I say, these people, they do so much in their lives. I mean, very early on, there are so many things they participated in it. They volunteered, they Boy Scouts, this and that. It's amazing. You find the child took a resume of a Muslim child for something. It's the elementary school, middle school, high school degree. That's it. There is nothing else. I mean, I'm talking about majority. There is nothing else in the resume. It just somebody went to study in the summer doing nothing. Most of the time, just you're wasting time playing games and then get a degree and that's it. You see those resumes? Amazing. It's amazing how much volunteering they did and how much initiative they took. And some of them, they start their own business very early on. It's amazing. So people are really, we need that culture that we need to instill. And you know what? Sometimes I say, we probably don't need to do anything. We just need to keep the baggage for ourselves. That's it. Because if those children are raised normally in the society, they're going to be like, maybe they have a chance to be like those people, very ambitious. It's just we get them we pass on the baggage to them to say it's okay to be average and it's okay to we lower the bar of aspirations. That's what we shouldn't do. So make no mistake about it. It's a very, very tedious and demanding task. That you are the product of very backward culture. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this chance to be in this country here and to see things differently. Let's take advantage of that. And let's keep the baggage for this generation. Let's raise a generation of Muslim Americans in this country who have no identity problem, no limitation whatsoever. All these shackles that are holding us down, let's try to keep them for ourselves. Let's raise a generation who's, if we can motivate and inspire and raise the bar of inspirations or aspirations, let's do it. If you can, at least don't do any damage. At least leave these people alone. Because what we're doing now, we're passing on to them what? An identity issue, they shouldn't deal with it. It's our issue, we should keep it for ourselves. Why? Because we are people who lived half of their lives in another part of the world, they came here, then it's natural to have identity struggle. But for someone who was born and raised here, or someone who was converted to Islam, why should they have this problem? Why should they have to deal with it? I mean, at least let's keep that problem of identity for this generation. One. Second, all the negative elements in our culture, and there are many of them, let's also keep them for ourselves. And let's make this generation, if we need to do something, is to encourage them to discover their faith. And believe me, if they discover the true Islam, they will find it great, very inspiring, empowering. They will be very proud of it. But not the Islam they say. This is not impressive. Make no mistake about it. They are not impressed with it. They don't like it. Why? Because it doesn't help them, doesn't solve any of their problems, doesn't answer any of their questions. And they don't see really role models or mentors in the house or in the community. So, but if we manage to encourage them to discover their true faith, true Islam, and that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to be honest with ourselves and with our children. To say, we got it wrong, we're making adjustments, we hope you don't do the same thing. We hope you go straight to the true version of Islam rather than wasting your time as we did.
I mentioned Dr. Ahmed Zuhair last time. Dr. Ahmed Zuhair is an Egyptian scientist who won, I believe, one of 2 Nobel Prizes for Muslims ever. Just one in science. Yeah, one of 2. Which is very rare to come out of the Muslim world.
2.
Well, yeah, he's one of 2 out of the 1.6 billion, one of 2 Muslim winners of the Nobel Prize. And so the version of Islam, as Dr. Zuhair was talking about, it's extremely rare for it to produce a successful person. And so he was asked about it one day. He said, why are they, the they is referring to first world people to the West, why are they so successful, and why do they have, why do they win all these prizes, and why are they so advanced, and why are we like this? Are we inherently dumber? Or
No.
And he says no. He says the reason is, he says 2 words. He says the reason, they encourage the unsuccessful person until he's successful. we discourage a successful person until he's a failure. This is what he said.
It's amazing.
His parents, when he was young, they say, what made you aspire to become what you are? He said, when I was 5 or 6 years old, they referred to me as Dr. Ahmed. Dr. Ahmed. They called him doctor when he was a child. So they instilled that aspiration since he was very young. And this is rare to find in the Muslim world, rare, especially in the Arab world. I mean, they tell you you're a failure from day one.
That's
you will
true.
never be anything. This is at the heart of the issue.
That's true. I told you a very simple example, very extremely simple example of you're going to do something different and everybody tried to hold you back. When we were students, first of all, every time I think about something, you find everybody, no, don't even try it, we did it, it doesn't work. Every time you want to think about doing something different, you get all of these people coming from all angles saying, no. We did this before, it never happens, etc. So one time, it's an example of typing. I mentioned this before in this class. Now we came here, and the first time they asked us to do a paper. I finished the paper, and then I had to type it. I spent more time typing it than preparing it. I mean, because at that time we're typing one letter at a time. And they asked us, said, is this going to happen frequently? I say, yeah, every class has project or paper. So we need to solve this from the roots. We cannot deal with it for... So I start mentioning to my colleagues in the masjid, I say, I think I'm going to learn. No, don't even... I saw a book I'm going to buy. No. We tried these books, they don't work. So I'm going to do it. So I get the book, 30 lessons of typing, 30 days. I did it. 30 days, every day, I learn new lessons. I start typing very fast. Typing with all my fingers from that time. And everybody, until now, probably did not learn typing. I cannot tell you the amount of time I saved in 20 years solving this problem very early on. Very early on. Probably after a few months here, I solved it. That's it. Start typing with all my fingers and typing extremely fast. So, but in the beginning, everybody says, no, these books, they never work. They always say that it never works. You need to have to register in a school, otherwise it will never work. And if I listened to them, probably I would probably still typing the same way until now. Yes.
I think we need to put the plan and we need to sacrifice to fulfill this plan. I'll give you an example, a small example. One businessman in this area has 2 stores, one in Fairfax County and one in Alexandria City. One day in Fairfax County made, let's say, $10 million. The one in City of Alexandria made $5 million. And he sold the store in Fairfax County, not in Alexandria. And I asked him why. He told me, my son wants to be a politician. If I stay in Fairfax County big, it's very hard to enter to be a politician. City of Alexandria, much smaller and very easy to be city council member, and after that you grow up. He sacrificed with big business.
Clear goals.
He put goals for his son. And I think I am not asking you, but we need all together to put a plan to do something. Because just talking, I don't think we are going anywhere.
I agree, and I told you from the beginning. That's why I need somebody to help with the management aspect. I cannot do everything. This part of action, planning, execution, etc. Is needed and needs somebody to take charge of it. Yes, First Matters. Can I come back?
Bank off of both of you guys are saying, as a homework assignment, perhaps for everybody in the class to bring back next week. Everybody has something that they're probably concerned about, something that they believe needs to be fixed, at least if not one, then many things. So everybody brings something to the class next week that you are inherently concerned about and you want to make an effort to change. And be prepared to take the initiative to lead that project. And we can discuss different ways to solve that problem, but whoever brings that concern or whatever that initiative is needs to take the lead of that project.
I agree. Let's remove the second condition because many people will not be encouraged to bring suggestions if they have to lead it. But yes, let's make a session action-oriented and really bounce ideas, put some ideas on the table of some initiatives and projects. And my focus is what? My focus is on each one of us to master the idea and then to embody it as an individual, meaning to try to meet that profile. Now the collective part, which requires planning and etc., that's what we need help. But what I'm focusing on is what? I'm focusing is to make each one of us really discover the true Islam, try to embody it in terms of thinking and in terms of action, so that that profile will become real, true profile. I want to see people who open up to their environment, people who are civically engaged as individuals, people who are investing in themselves, the true self-development. That's, for me, major success. It's not enough. There is another part that you're mentioning, which is collectively, what is it that we can do to turn this vision into reality? That's where we need help. Yes. Oh, you first.
There's you hear, or at least I hear a lot of times, that the so-called patriarchal structure of families, which is very big, mostly in the Islamic world, but also in the developing world, patriarchal society, where
the man,
the man is the top and
the king.
Yeah, is the king, and somehow everybody. How much of that? I do believe that has something to do with how things are done and not done in the Muslim societies. You're very lucky and fortunate if that man is somebody who's forward thinking and which is rare. But the rest of the society, we go from the father, to the chief, to the president. Everybody wants to control, everything, and from the day you understood anything, that's what you understood. And then how much of that is the problem?
That's definitely a major factor. That's where this unhealthy culture gets recycled. It's when you have women who are not really empowered, who are not dignified. Nowadays, by the way, there are some statistics very alarming about what Muslim women, unfortunately, is subject to. It's very embarrassing. From violence to harassment, from home to the street, everywhere. It's really alarming. I saw some statistics in Egypt, in Tunisia, etc. And some, what kind of children this woman will raise, and what kind of child is going to grow up seeing this kind of injustice and oppression starting from home, and not be able to be himself, because in an environment of oppression, you're not going to get someone who has sound personality. People will learn at home to be hypocrite and to have masks, and then they take that in the school. It becomes even more emphasized. In the street, it becomes more emphasized because oppression is everywhere, and that's one of the major differences between how a child grows up in advanced societies, where they learn from early on to speak their mind and to have their own opinion, and they're encouraged, and things are explained to them, not forced on them. Things are explained to them. There are some things that come to you, that you see when I came to this country. There are things that I saw that you never forget them. They say fresh perspective. Things that you see for the first time when you come, you never forget them. Two scenes to tell you the difference about how the child is raised. First of all, when I came here, volunteered for the Islamic school, and they were shocked by the level of determination and of the personality of children is completely different. Child here will tell you this is what they like, that's what they don't like, that's what they prefer, that's etc. Very early on. That's unheard of in Muslim cultures. There they choose everything for them, they buy even the child clothes. Everything it makes no decision in life. So that's shocked me. But the two scenes that I never forget, because it happened in the first weeks. One is, it was in a toy store, and a woman with her very young child, and the child wants to buy, she said, you know what, come here. This is what we can afford. Choose from here. Choose. It's not she's going to buy for him. Choose. But there is limitation. So within certain limit, you have the freedom to choose. That's the area things that we can afford. And then the choice is yours. That shocked me because you never see this in backward cultures. Basically the child may be at home and things that is bought for him. But somebody will tell you, try to explain there is a limit. We have the limited resources, that's what we can afford. But still within that limit, you can choose. The second was in the student union cafeteria. There is somebody, a very young child, and he has a can of soda and he want to go and throw it in the trash, and the father is coming and explain to the child how need to put it in the recycling. And then explain this whole idea of recycling in a very simple way for the child. And the child kept asking, and the father has had all the patience. He didn't say, just put it there and leave me alone. And he kept explaining this because that's better for the environment, etc., but in a very simple language. Very simple scene, but tells you how people are raised in a completely different way. Somebody is expecting you very early on to explain, not to tell you just do it the way I tell you and don't ask questions. And somebody explained that you have freedom to choose, but just within what we can afford. So that's the limit. For me, my job is to set the limit because that's but you choose. As I said, simple scenes, but tells you how different children are raised. Your opinion is respected. Your mind is respected. You're treated respectfully very early on. That's why parents take the time to explain to you. Doesn't tell you just do it like this. And I was wondering at that time and say, if it was parents in any other third world countries, probably for the first question say, just put it wherever you want and, and leave me alone. She kept explaining, no, it's better to put it in recycling because of the benefits, etc. So it's, yes, brother.
Yeah, about the issue of the identity, no matter what we try to do in the right way, but from now to 100 years ago also, the children are going to have it and face it. And we should admit it. We should not just, cover our eyes. And I have seen it, and I will see in the future, and it's written on the wall also, that they will have the identity issue no matter what. Just day before yesterday, I had an interview after Jumma. After the lecture, I went over there. A guy similar to my age. The first few words of the conversation, I treat all the colors the same way. That's what he's trying to tell me. And I looked at him and I just smiled. I said, so do I. I didn't say him anything. I said, to me, your color, already black or yellow color, means nothing to me. If your character is okay, I regard that. I'm just telling you, it was a very sensible situation and a very responsible position. But that's how they are just trying to tell you. And in future also they are, the kids are going, well, you can see even in their campaign of the presidential campaign also, this is the slogan and this will stay on for how many years you think that they could finish this racism or anything? No, they will never do, but we have to just be patient on that side. But instead of that, we see that we can eliminate the identity issue, we can never.
Forget about eliminating. All I'm saying is let's not make it worse. I mean, there is some issues. You can see it until very recently, and still there is some African American have issues in this country or facing problems. So I'm not saying it's going to go away from the society. I'm saying let's not make it more difficult, because I know parents, or probably most parents, most Muslim parents are fighting their children to say you're not an American, you don't belong here. Yeah. That makes it worse.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, leave it natural. Leave them, they deal with it like anybody else. Let's not make it more difficult for them. So I have seen this time and again, and I have heard from young Muslims very painful stories of people who feel they belong nowhere. I saw even letters. Sometimes parents showed me letter written by his child saying, it's a very lot of emotion, saying, I don't know where I belong. My parents tell me that you belong to this country that I've never been into it, and so it's people are suffering. That's what the part I'm saying. Let's not make it difficult. Let's keep it natural. If you want to raise your child as Egyptian, Pakistani, whatever, you just take them there. But totally unfair to have a child born here and you raise them here and you try to make them belong somewhere else. And it's a failing battle, by the way, losing battle. Don't try it, because it's not going to work. Yeah, just accept that. I know naturally we are attached and we want to attach our children, but let's accept that reality. It doesn't mean that they need to forget about their roots. Nothing wrong with being American from this roots or that roots. These are your roots, and then we may even take them there to show them their roots. But they belong here. That's their country. That's where they belong. Don't interfere with that. Now, is this country an ideal country where there is no identity or ethnic? No, there is. Nobody claims in this country that racism is over, or nobody. Or discrimination is over. There are very strict laws. Things are much better than decades before. There is no question about it. But it doesn't become an ideal society. But we are making it much more difficult when we oppose that and we tell children that you don't belong in this country, or you're not an American, or you can't be proud, you can't be a good Muslim and proud American at the same time. So that's the confusion that we need to avoid.
And I think you will be in a much better position when you're facing discrimination, if you feel and believe in yourself that you belong here. I mean, this is your country. You will not accept it. In a much better position to fight that situation than when even in your heart you're shaky. You're shaky, and maybe I don't belong here. Maybe they're right to discriminate against. I mean,
excellent point. You become in a stronger position to deal with that, because anybody who's going to discriminate against you is you can fight back. I remember a brother one time had a situation like this, and I said, "Who do you think you are? You just came sometimes before me, and you came by boat, I came by plane. So who do you think you are? I mean, you think you are an American, and this is the country of mostly minorities." So
there's a girl who is in the Olympics. Speaking of Olympics, she's Native American, African American. She's actually she's the one wearing hijab, and she's playing fencing, and she has a quote there where she says, I think she's kind of responding to Donald Trump, and she says, "All my people are from here, so I don't know where he wants to send me." Something. And that's what you want to have. Powerful statement. That's a powerful statement. Feeling, yeah.
The story, as soon as you mentioned it, I remembered something, a real life story. A few months back in April, I was going to a good Palestinian friends of mine, his Aqiqah, basically celebrating the birth of a son. And we're going to this public facility, and his father was there. I walked in with another friend of mine, a living friend of mine, and I went just to say salam, just to greet him. This is my friend's father. And his father lives mostly in Palestine, but comes here every few months to visit his son, help him with his business, with his small shop, and then goes back. And I walk in there, usually all the guys that come from overseas, I talk to them in Arabic, they're fluent in Arabic, and my other friend was with me, he's not that fluent. And so he proceeds to greet my friend's father, proceeds to greet him in English. And he got extremely upset, enraged. He said, "Why are you talking to me in English? We're Arabs." He starts cursing America. I can't repeat what he says. He says, "Stomp on America." I'm like, are you crazy? He's like, "We can't talk in English. We're Arabs. We're just here temporarily." That stuck with me until today. Every time somebody mentions it, I'm like, wow. This is the mentality that we come with here.
That's a mindset. That's a mindset that we have to fight.
3 years, living in and out, 30 years in and out, coming into America.
We have to make an effort for ourselves. If we decided to live here, make an effort to become more comfortable being an American Muslim, American citizen, and for your children, just leave them alone. Just don't interfere with them, because naturally, somebody who's born and raised in America is an American.
Yeah, I just think it's really funny because I feel like a lot of parents.
Yes, brother.
Yeah, so I just think that it's interesting that a lot of parents, when they're coming from a different country, they idolize America sort of for their children, talking of the opportunities that they're going to have. And then when they come here, they realize that the culture is so different, and they think of it in a negative way, such as, America is so secular, right? There's no rules, right? There's no boundaries. But without realizing all the corruption that's coming back from home. So they're trying to tell them like, oh yeah, you're from this country, but without realizing all the negative things that they themselves have left, to leave that environment. Mm-hmm. And I think that, it's important for the children, as you were, advocating to learn, true Islam, because if you really understand Islam as a religion, you as a child, and as you're growing up, can self-govern yourself, realizing, okay, this is permissible to stay away from, this is not, but, you're not restricting yourself in the opportunities that America, and most European countries give you, mm-hmm. which is far more than pretty much everywhere else in the world.
That's absolutely true. We stick to the commandments of Islam. You focus on that with your child, and Islam is compatible. We say, sometimes we contradict ourselves. We say Islam is universal religion. What does it mean, universal religion? It means compatible with every culture. And then, when it comes to American culture, say no. Islam has to be kept attached to a foreign culture, so that if you're going to become Muslim as an American, you have to take the whole package, the deen and the culture at the same time. And our job is to decouple Islam from its culture, and people are bound only to the commandments of Islam. An American Muslim will think and behave differently than an Arab Muslim or an Asian Muslim, and that's naturally. Because why? Because there are two components in the identity. There are two components. There is a culture and there is a religion. They mix together, they produce that coherent personality, which goes to be different. Why it's different? Because the culture is different, the challenges are different, the environment is different, so that you can't apply or force that the version of Islam that is mixed already with the foreign culture and try to impose it on somebody here. That's how things are not working. In every culture in the world, there are some positive elements and negative elements. Islam always endorses the positive elements in any culture. Doesn't ask people to abandon it. It's not like I see somebody becomes an American and suddenly start wearing like Saudi. It's a why? I mean, that's a dress. That's a culture dress. You don't have to. You don't have to change anything. You still can do everything almost the same way, except things that are forbidden. Other than that, it's just be yourself. You don't have to become. And they think that to become a good Muslim, you have to become also an Arab or Pakistani or etc. You don't have to. And the only people in this country who can tell anybody to go home are who? These are the only people who can tell everybody to go home. Everybody else has to accept that this is a country of immigrants. Yes, Matthews. Go ahead. Go ahead. So let's keep next week. We need to come up with practical ideas, initiative, project suggestions that somebody can champion them, and we can, inshallah, help.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. So, inshallah, one of the initiatives that we're trying to accomplish is to eliminate poverty, starting with feeding the homeless and those abused women and children, etc., in the area. So we got in touch, we tried to get in touch with Faith US. Unfortunately, it looks like their program for that, I don't know if it still exists or not, because nobody's answering the phone and messages are completely packed. So I can't get in touch with them. And we found that there was no other abused women and children program in Fairfax that allows you to assemble food and package food and things like that. So what we want to do is just continue with what we were doing with the previous month and distributed 2 different homeless shelters, one in Arlington, the other one in Falls Church. So if anybody there's 3 options. If you can donate money, whoever wants to get involved can donate money, can donate food supplies, and we'll send out a list of the options that we plan to package. And then the third option is if you want to donate your body, to help package the materials or assemble the materials. We'll be doing that on Saturday of the coming week downstairs in the masjid between 12 and probably 3:30. So
Yes.
We'll be accepting money any day after Isha in the masjid for today. And then packaging food, if anybody wants to just donate food, it will only be accepted Friday night after Isha, inshallah. And then Saturday we're going to execute and then distribute.
That's a noble effort. Let's get used to do these things, not only occasionally, but should become a routine part that we put our time and volunteer and help those who need help. That's an essential part of our faith.
And by the way, children are most welcome and encouraged to participate as well. So we will be making sandwiches and then packaging into a bag. And also, we want to also send inspirational and motivational quotes because there's people who are in need. So we want to try to uplift their spirits as well. If we can send some quote that somebody feels is very inspiring or something like that, we'll put them inside the bags as well and then distribute.